Hello and welcome to a Life Too Sweet podcast. My name is Dana. I am a Christian. I am overcoming and new in living for God. On November 11th, 2020, I forgave and I repented against my sins, and then God at this moment is doing a works in me, right? He is giving me righteousness, and there actually is a Bible verse, and I'm learning really to learn who God is instead of learning what the Bible says and really looking at myself. But I did remember when I was in a recovery program, and they used to talk about this verse a lot, and I put it in my testimony that I had at the time, and it was 1 John 1-9, and here it is. So let me pull it up so I remember exactly word for word from the NIV. I think I had it. So 1 John, actually this is New International Version. Let's check this one out. So it is 1 John 1:9. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. So at this moment, I am being purified from all my unrighteousness. And the sin that I did repent from, I forgave my mother, because when I was born where I had a relationship with God, but I became angry after a while because I overreacted about a lot of things, just as my mom did. And I started resenting my mother as I got older. And once I became an adult, I came up with a lot of things, right? There were a lot of issues that were going on within me, and I never really realized it was within me. But within me, I had anger, I had fear. I judged a lot of people. I judged myself. I had a big ego. And as I am being purified from all unrighteousness, I'm starting to see the unrighteousness. And the unrighteousness is what I thought was the sin, which was the doing the deeds that I did, right? So what I really did was I acted out because of the fear and the anger. So I had a lot of anger. And so what I did was I wanted to make myself feel better. So I started doing different things. I started playing a lot of sports to try to get my anger out, right? I would judge people. I would treat people that thinking I was better than them, and talking to them nasty, and just things in my head that I got from Satan. I started needing some help with those and making myself feel better. So I went outside to try to find things. And I was in my 20s. I got into the music scene, as you can see my records in the back. And through that scene, I thought when I was DJing, I felt better about myself. So it was outside stuff, trying to make myself feel better. But I never felt better, right? So I would drink, or I would do drugs, or whatever I could do to feel better. And those were those things that were unrighteous, They weren't of God. And I'm starting to really realize that as I take time to look at myself. And that's the biggest thing, right? The last 4 years, I've been a Bible-thumping Christian, and I was always taught to look on the outside, look in the Bible, read the Bible, know the Bible. That's how you'll know God. And isn't that the same things I was doing before? When I was going out and I was drinking, I was addicted to drinking. But once I became a Bible thumper, I was addicted to telling people how they should live their lives, And I was looking on the outside. And I've noticed that even since I've been doing this podcast, I want to tell people what they need to do. And I'm starting to really realize that, because as God is taking away that ego, the biggest and the hardest part of my ego is me trying to tell you what to do and how to do it and how to be a good Christian. And, if you do this, you'll be fine. And I'm still doing it. I'm noticing that as I'm talking to you now, but I've noticed it because the biggest part of my ego is that. And I'm noticing how it's so big is because when God starts taking away that ego, it is physically painful and mentally painful. And the mental part of it is really realizing how out of body experience it is. It's it's not of me, it's of Satan. And I'm still doing it, but I'm doing it less and I'm seeing it. So I'm noticing with this one, because this one is really this is a really deep sin. Like this is a really deep, not sin, but like an unrighteousness, right? It's really, it's really nasty to be honest with you, but it's so deep. It feels like it's so deep because it's taking so long, and because the pain is so great. Sometimes I don't want to sit and just do it and just feel that pain so that I can go through it. And I've been given a suggestion, not to me, but as I talk about, I do listen to Jesse Lee Peterson, and he's always talked about this, and it never really made any sense fully to me, even though I was kind of doing it, where sitting by myself and just knowing it through myself instead of on the outside. And because I've been doing that, and I've been sitting for like an hour a day, just sitting, and when thoughts come, I just try to observe them, and that's when God starts really revealing some things. And that's really when he started revealing. I mean, well, he was been revealing it, but that's when it really started hurting. Physical pain, mental pain. It was hurting my head, just so much pain. And I didn't want to deal with it, so I stopped. This was like a few days ago. And then yesterday again, I started again. And I've noticed as I woke up today, I see it a little bit more, and I've been, because I haven't been falling into my head, but sometimes I just kind of go with whatever's Satan's telling me in my head. I just start running with it. And I've been doing that a lot. I noticed it even when I was driving home from work. I try not to have the music on sometimes, and I just like to just drive where it's silent. But I noticed I was bringing up, like, bringing back old things, like God, like Satan was bringing back these old things, and I was getting stuck in it. And I noticed, like, I'm trying to find a way to explain to people all my ideas and all this stuff, and like all of that is really of Satan. It's not of me, because I'm hearing it in my head. You know what I mean? So I know this now, but there's times when I almost want to sit in it because it's fun, kind of. It's really weird. It's a really weird one. It's almost like I don't want to get rid of it. There's a part of me that doesn't, almost. It's kind of weird. So it's just something that I realized, but today just realizing where it's inside, it's not out, even though I've known it for the past few months, ever since November 11th. But now it's the 12th, so it's been 3 months now, 3 months since I repented. And think about 3 months of seeing who I truly am, knowing who I truly am, seeing that is actually not me. Like, I thought that was me, but because I was living for Satan for all those years, it became me. And I'm starting to really see some of those spirits were in there, and some of them seem to I can see that they were there for a long time, and I can see how I used them when I was in different groups. I did sports for a while. I could see how I was in there with sports. When I was in music, I could see how I was like, well, I know what person should be with what person, who should talk to who. And, I did it then, and I do it at work. I'm always trying to when I talk to this person, I'm going to tell them about this, and I'm going to tell them about that. And I noticed I'm trying to play God, really. And I never realized it was that, because when I just observe it, like when I have a conversation with somebody at work and I observe it and I don't give my opinion, I notice that I can just see them, and I'm like, okay, I see that they can't see. I see that they don't understand what I'm saying. I see they're answering it in a worldly way. They're answering it exactly how Satan would answer it. No, you're fine. You're doing great, Dana. When I would acknowledge something that I did, or something that I didn't like, or whatever, I acknowledge something. And instead of trying to tell them, well, you don't see it and you're blind and blah, 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 I'm able to just watch it, and then I can just see it. But if I see it and I'm already in my head, and I'm, Satan's already going, oh, you need to tell him this, and, you're in control. And then I see that I'm getting lost in that. And I know that is where the struggle that I'm going through, it's not even like a struggle, because I know I can't do anything about it. I know that I can do nothing about it, but God just keeps revealing it. And then I fall back into it, and then I don't get upset with myself. I look at it, and then I see it coming. Then I start hearing all the things that Satan's saying to make me do it. And it's interesting to see. And so I don't know where I went with that, because I really wasn't planning on going too far with that, but I just thought that was something cool to talk about, because that's what I'm going through. it's definitely a interesting thing. And I know that I'm in the middle of going through it, but it's pretty cool. It's really interesting. It's really cool to see. But I think the biggest takeaway that I'm getting out of this is sitting down and knowing that it's within me. The answers are within me. The answers are within me at that moment in time. And as I get more things revealed to me from the world, it's like, look at them, know that they're there, don't react to them. Don't get upset about them. Don't get happy. Don't get sad. Because I start getting happy, and then that's when the ego starts going, oh, you know the answers, Dana. You need to tell everybody. And so I'm starting to see it. And I never saw it, but as he's bringing it up, I always knew that there was something wrong, but I can't stop it. You know, I used to always be like, Dana, make sure you don't say these things. Like, don't try to tell people how to live their lives. That's wrong. Like, I would say that, and I never could change it. So I'm seeing it, you know, like these, I always thought they were like character defects, right? That's what they call them. But they're not character defects. They're a spirit that I can't get rid of. So it's really interesting to see, but I don't have to judge the others because I understand it because I was there, and I'm there right now trying to understand it, trying to allow God to explain it to me. And that is that's the biggest fun part about it, because it's like I'm a new person. You know, like all the old parts that aren't me, like those not me's, those like those spirits within me, they're dying, and it hurts physically and mentally, but it teaches me so much. I grow. And I've noticed a lot of cool things too, because I've always had like fear of like telling people, you know, I want something. I think that oh, hey, I need to have this or something, or I need a day off of work or something. I was always scared to talk about it. And I've noticed like there's a few things that I want at work, you know, and I was like, oh, you know what? I want to ask about this. So I asked my supervisor, and, you know, she gave me an answer, and I know how she is. And I didn't get upset when she gave me the answer. She made it seem like you can't do it. It's really hard, but you need to ask somebody else. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask that other person. But before, I would get upset with her, and I would be like, now I'm scared to ask. And so like all those things. But now I'm just like, okay, so next step, I go and I ask the next person, you know, and keep going forward, but not worrying. So the worry was less, but I still remember her saying that and the way she said it. And I kind of observed it, and it was like, okay, I observed what she's saying, and just, I don't have to have it hold me back, which I used to. So I see like God's giving me a little bit more, like where I'm not as fearful, but of course there are those things that I'm a little fearful of. And because I made my mother my God, and that personality type, I made my God, I actually have somebody else in my life who, trying to be my mom, you know, and I don't like it. I really don't like it at all. And instead of me saying anything, I'm letting Satan tell me all these things. And, you know, he's trying to get me really annoyed with this person. And so I'm like, I don't really know how I want to handle it right now. So I'm just not going to handle it. And every time they text me and make sounds like, you know, I know that's what they, you know, I know their personality is, I'm the mom and I'm going to save you and I'm going to bring you back to the church. And I'm like, I don't want to go back to church, you know, but instead of me saying something, I didn't know what to do, and I'm feeling it and everything. And then today I just got this feeling of like, you know what? I don't want to deal with it anymore. I don't want it. I don't want it in my life. Really, I don't. And it's okay to not want that person in my life and that in my life. So now I have to tell that person now, because I've made that motherly figure my God. It's like, I got to get the courage, and I have to tell this person, you know, and whatever will happen, maybe, you know, I know God will guide me, but at least I can see it and I can feel it, and I almost get the feeling, and I just have to feel it and go through it. But if I do not answer to it and I get too nervous or too happy, too sad, too nervous, you know, Satan's got me. And that's the big thing. It's like if I get, you know, if I get emotional over something, that's when I know, okay, God's really have control. I mean, the devil has control over this, so I just need to relax in it. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting because I'm growing. It's like being a child trying to learn, like, well, how do I handle this situation? I don't understand how to handle this situation. What do I do? Right? And now I do believe that I have that I have that guidance from God, and I trusting him more and more, because I can't trust him on my own. I tried and I couldn't do it. I can't do nothing on my own. And I'm learning it as I go, because I know I can't, because I try. And I even Satan in my head saying, do this, do that. You can do this, you can do that. And all it does is it gets me happy, and then it gets me sad, you know? And so I'm starting to really see everything so clear. I'm even starting to see people clear. I'm even starting to see politics clear. And it's really cool to see politics clear, because politics have always been one of those other things that gets me a little riled up. And it's interesting because I'm starting to see evil like I've never seen it before. And it's so obvious to me, but others around me, they can't see, right? Because they're blinded, just like I was. But I notice like how God reveals things. It's like how he revealed things to me. Like even when I was still a Bible thumper, I noticed little things I started seeing evil a little bit more, just a little. And it was like almost like God's like showing me a little, showing me a little, showing me a little. But now it's like double time. It's so much faster because I'm taking the time to look within. And there was something that I realized too about looking within. You know how the intellects will say you have to look at things by like they'll do like a social experiment, or they'll do something on the outside of you, right? Or you got to go by what the experts say, and you got to go by what the numbers show. Well, the funny thing is, I noticed I learn the most when I look and I see, and I live through the world, and then I go, wait a minute, I'm not seeing what this thing is saying. Like if I go and I listen to or I read about, like they'll say this many people do this and this is why they do it, and I read about it, but then I go out and I look and I see it, I say, well, I don't think that's right, you know? And I realize that what is within me is always right. And what I read, or if I see like statistics, a lot of times I'm going, well, those statistics, why are these statistics showing those numbers? And then somebody else will tell us the reason why those statistics are saying that. And then I realize, well, no, that's not why. And I'm thinking, okay, so they're using the statistics, the numbers, and saying this is why. And they're manipulating what the statistics say. And so I started realizing that I always use arguments of things that I can see from my experiences more than what the experts might say. And I always get a lot of flack for that. I get flack for that a lot. So I started realizing, I was like, wait a minute, those people are wrong. Like that, look at all the statistics. But the people that really look within and see what's going on within, it seems like that's when I get the best results, the most knowledge. I really never realized that. And then it clicked today. I was like, that's the best arguments for things is, what we're seeing within the world. I mean, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, we're living in a world where if you are Black, you have no opportunity. Or if you have learning disabilities, you can't be successful. And I'm saying, well, that's not true, because I've seen many people start off really low and become rich. I've seen people with learning disabilities go, like me, I had some slower learning disabilities, and I've noticed that I was able to do fine in my school for x-ray and CAT scan. I did fine. I did great. I did fine. I graduated with honors in my x-ray school. So I'm thinking, well, I did pretty good. Yeah, I had to work harder, but I didn't see like it being harder. I did see that, when I would try to go through the system of like where they're trying to help people with learning disabilities, they weren't helping me enough. Like they were just going to let me get there. Like they would make me go to a certain school that I was like, I don't think this is going to get me more than $15 an hour. I might as well go somewhere else. So I made those decisions, right? But it's like, well, it's decision making, right? So I look at what I went through and I say, well, if I made better decisions, better things would happen. If I stayed with what they were going to give me, the government said, okay, you know, I went through Easter seals and they told me, this is what we can give you. And I would ask, I said, okay, they said that they can give me a tutor so I could pass this test, that I was having problems passing these tests. And because they make you do it on your own and make you read a book and do it on your own, I don't learn very well that way. It's just not my learning style. So I said, okay, great. You guys will give me a tutor. So I go to the tutor and I tell her, okay, this is what we're learning. And she goes, no, we don't teach that. We teach you certain things or whatever. And I'm like, well, I'm in college right now. I'm like, I don't know how old I was, 19, 20. I'm like, I'm in college right now. I need to learn this stuff so I can pass this test. Oh, we don't do that. And I was like, well, this doesn't make any sense. It's a waste of my time. So I stopped going and I said, forget Easter seals. And there were other things that Easter seals wouldn't let me do. They didn't want me to go to Broward Community College. They wanted me to go to like a vocational school. And the vocational schools didn't have what I wanted to make the money that I wanted to make. So I wanted to go to the Broward Community College and they wouldn't pay for it. I finally fought it. They said they would pay for it. I got a job. They said, oh, you have a job. We can't do it. I'm like, so they didn't allow me to be successful. And so I'm thinking, well, if I can't be successful, where I want to be successful, I have to go on my own. So we can say the system is bad. Well, yeah, the system's bad. But I saw that, well, I could go another route. So I went and I got a private loan, which cost me a lot of money. The interest was high, but I got a private loan. I didn't work. I went to school at Broward Community College. They had tutors there. I went to the tutors there. I got my prereqs done, which were very hard for me, but I took extra time. I knew it's going to take me a little longer than the average guy. So I'll not work. So that's what I did. I didn't work. I did that. I studied. I went to the gym because that helps me do well in school. It always helped me. So I did those two things. I ended up getting my degree and I worked in X-ray and I went back to school for CAT scan and MRI and I do both. Sometimes I do MRI. So I've moved up. I've done what I need to do. I don't have anger towards that system, but that system didn't work for me. Maybe somebody else wants to do that. Maybe there's a vocational program for somebody else, but it didn't mean that I couldn't do it. It meant that I had to make good decisions. So I see that I could do it and I seen other people do it. So that makes me realize that people can do it if they make good decisions. So that's how I learned. I didn't learn by somebody telling me, well, this amount of people who are learning disabled, they can't go to college. Well, how about some of their learning disabilities are different than my learning disability? And maybe my disability is not a disability. Maybe it's that I don't learn very well this way. And, that might be it. But they don't look at it that way because it takes time. It's probably more expensive. They just want to say it because, see, you can't do it because this doesn't allow you to. The system doesn't allow you to. So what do I listen to? What do I believe? Do I believe what these experts say and how many people go to school and how many people don't? Or do I look at myself and others who have succeeded and say, well, how did they succeed with that same issue that I had? How do we do it? So how do I look at it? Do I look at it statistically wise? Or do I look at it by like what I did and what people do and how to get it done? Well, that only makes sense to me. The statistics don't speak for everybody. There are people that are born with nothing and become successful. There are people born with a lot and don't become successful. So doesn't that show you? You know what I mean? And I'm always seeing that that's a problem, And I always get that where people will look at that and say, oh, you're just looking at your own situation. But I'm like, but that doesn't make sense because you can look at the world and see people from all different shapes and sizes, all different areas, all different colors, all different where they're from. I mean, most people I work with are from another country and they're successful. So I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make logical sense. And I think that's logic. I don't think logic is, well, it says it here in this book that I can do this and I can't do that, so I can't do it. And it's so weird to me that people see things that way. It doesn't make any logical sense. But then people will say, "Oh, that's just because you're using an argument that helped you." I'm like, "Well, I can see what's going on in the world. I mean, I'm not stupid. I don't need a book to tell me it, right? I don't need an educator to educate me on what I see. I just need to find out for myself, right? Look within." So I really think that this podcast really is looking within. How do we find the truth? How do we succeed in life? How do we know God? I mean, how did I figure out who God was? Well, first I thought reading this Bible and going to this church and listening to this preacher, and he's going to tell me all the answers. But none of it made sense. It was almost like a puzzle piece where you put all the pieces of the puzzle on the table and you get like little piece over here and you put a piece over here. That's what it's like going to church. But looking within, God will say, okay, here's all these pieces. I'm going to put these pieces together for you. And then I'm going to let you see how those pieces work together and you know, how they were made and how they work together. And you'll be able to maneuver into this society, and you'll know how to maneuver into it, and you'll have no effects. Nothing will bother you and hurt you, and you'll just be able to kind of glide through. And everything will make sense. Now sometimes I listen to the Bible on tape or something when I'm about to go to sleep, and I'm like, oh, that's what he meant by that. Oh, that's what Jesus meant. Oh, that, you know, now I know Jesus. You know, I used to listen, and I remember in my Bible study, I told one of the ladies there, I said, I listen to Jesus and he sounds crazy. He doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm supposed to be like this guy? How am I going to be like him? Because the world and the Christians make no sense. They have no clue who God is. There's no way you can know who God is and not understand your brother, right? That doesn't make sense. So I'm really learning to be still and know God, because somebody brought this up today. I thought that was really cool too. He's like, God did it in stillness. He created the heavens and earth in stillness and quiet. He didn't go, I looking to put some sunlight in the sky. This is how, you know, he didn't just do it. He just poof, poof. It's just done. It's like all the things that you hear and you read in the Bible in Genesis really let you see his nature and who God is. And if your nature is not like that, if you're not able to do those types of things, think about that. How do you know God? You know what I mean? Like, let's go back to what I've been talking about, right? About knowing it for myself and seeing how things work, or reading it in a book. What makes more sense to you? Think about what makes more sense to you. What makes more sense to me? What makes sense? And why I never understood the world. I always knew there was something that wasn't right. Something was missing. We're missing the mark here. I don't know how, but we're missing the mark. And I'm going to figure it out. That's what I used to think, you know. But I guess that's with my ego. But I really was looking for something. I knew it didn't make sense that we're reading these books. And every time I read a book, all I'm getting is like knowledge of like how to do something. You know, when I read my books for X-ray, I knew how X-rays worked and I knew how the body works. But those are just like how things work. Okay, I'll read a book on that. But telling me how to think and how to act and how to feel and all this stuff, and is a book's going to tell me, when the intellectuals can't even keep their heads on straight and not be depressed and not be angry. I mean, I told you the story about Jordan Peterson. I mean, brilliant man, a mess, right? All the psychologists. I just heard somebody who I know who's having a really hard time in life. She's going to go to school to be a psychologist. And I'm like, oh my God, she can't even leave her house. Like, she's in a lot of issues. She's got a lot of issues going on. Like, a lot of issues. And she's going to go and be a psychologist. I'm like, I don't understand that. And I'm saying, I don't know anything either. I can't be a psychologist. I wanted to go to school for psychology. I have no clue what to do. I have no clue. I had to go to God so he could show me how to do the things. Because every time I try, I judge and I get angry and I get happy or sad, or, you know, I get all these feelings, and I know that that's not of God. That's of Satan. So it's not even me doing that, you know? So those things start to make sense. I start to be able to see who I truly am. And the only way to see who I truly am is to be still and know. And that is what I'm getting out of all this stuff today. That's really why I wanted to make this podcast, I think. It's actually Friday. Usually I do it on Thursday. I was really busy on Thursday. And nothing really was coming to me. But today this just hit me. It really made a lot of sense about being still and know. And I didn't get why I was doing this silent prayer that I talk about. But now I know why. It's important to be still and to know, because I can only know when I'm still. As I said, God was still when he made the heavens and earth. And he said it was good. He knows what's good. I don't know what's good. And I thought that's weird too. He's saying it's good. I don't know what that means. All the things that I read in this Bible, it made no sense. It was like those pieces of puzzles were all over the place. I didn't understand. Why am I getting emotional? I didn't like the emotions. Why am I not having peace? And I asked the questions. Because I didn't have the answers. I didn't just listen to what the preacher said. And I did fall for it. I fell for it. I did. I fell for it. But I still asked, and I'm really grateful for God because he knew my heart and he knew that I really wanted to know him. That I really wanted to know him. And it's really cool. It's been an amazing journey. It's been an amazing ride. I can't say enough amazing things about it. Even the times that are hard, it's so cool because when I get through it, it's just like, wow, I actually know God now. I know what it's like to be a daughter of God. We talk about, as a Bible thumper, we talked about having a relationship with God. Well, did I have a relationship with God? No, I had a relationship with the world. I had a relationship with the Bible. I had a really good relationship with the Bible. I got up every morning and I read them, but I had no clue who he was. I had no clue who God was. It's like I was taking from one addiction, one God to another God to another God, and not the God, right? So I don't know. That was definitely hit me just a little while ago. That's why I planned on doing my podcast today, but then I just kind of didn't feel good this morning because I'm going through some physical issues. And I'm like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm listening to my head. And then when I was listening to Jesse Lee Peterson today, it all hit me. It was like, oh yes, that being still and know how important it is, because when I start getting into my head, and sometimes it happens at work, when I start getting into the world, I get like Satan's voice gets really loud and I just start acting out in his voice. But I'm starting to realize that I'm not being still and I'm getting caught up. And there's still some things that I have to be aware of. It's just being aware, being still and knowing. Then the awareness comes. And once the awareness comes, then I can see. And I don't have the answers. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know anything. What I'm telling you is what I'm going through and what I'm feeling. And I know that I can't tell anybody how to know God. It's up to us to take the time, be still, and know him. And that's why I suggest Jesse Lee Peterson's silent prayer, because you can find out for yourself. You can know the truth by knowing yourself. And so I've been plugging his silent prayer because it keeps me quiet and grounded so that Satan's voice gets a little bit lower and I could catch it, Like when all those things are popping by, I'm starting to believe them because it so much sounds like myself. It's so crazy. And then when I'm in, all these thoughts start coming. Satan can just throw like 100 thoughts at me and I'm like, whoa, I can't handle this. But when I sit silently and I do the silent prayer, it slows them down a little bit. And then I can kind of catch up with them. I think that's how Jesse Lee Peterson says it. It catches up with you. But I see it as just, I notice it for me. It just kind of slows down my mind. It really does slow them down a little bit. But it takes, for me, I've been doing it for about 20 minutes every time. I can only do about 20 minutes. Then either I'm like so calm and relaxed that I can get out of it, But it's really a good one. Silent prayer. It's on Jesse Lee Peterson's YouTube page. He also has one on SoundCloud. I like the one on SoundCloud because I like the one on SoundCloud. I like it because he has you put your hands here and it's easy to kind of focus back on my hands. So it's really good. Check that out. And I also do suggest listening to Jesse Lee Peterson's show. It's the JLP show. It's Monday through Friday. If you're on the East Coast, it's at 9 a.m. If you're on the West Coast, it's at 6 a.m. And a lot of times callers will call in and I'll notice like I'm going through the same thing they're going through, or I don't see it that way, or I can kind of see, oh wait, I'm in my head with that. Like it kind of helps me. It kind of reminds me of like where I'm at, and it keeps me focused. And it's really good because in the beginning I got I wanted to do all the old things. Like I'm like, oh, I have to fellowship, which it is important to fellowship. It's really, really important to fellowship. But right now it's like I'm getting rid of all the old, like a lot of old friends aren't going to be able to help. Like aren't going to be able to be there for me, and they're not going to be able to fellowship because they're going to try to change me. They're going to try to, like I'm doing, right? They're going to try to play God. They're going to try to throw the Bible at me, or they're going to throw Satan at me, whatever. And so it's like I'm losing a lot of friends, and I'm not sure how to handle it because it's so new. And now I'm learning, like God is showing me. It's not like learning, but God is showing me when I'm calm and I'm still in knowing him and not in my past or in the future, which Satan really does. Or if I'm in my head, or if I'm excited or sad. So that's really what's been going on. I guess this podcast, Be Still and Know God. And then all the answers will come. All the answers will come. The other thing, other than just the answers, is knowing how to talk to people, knowing how to live, living with no fear, no resentment. It's the fears are going away. Still there a little bit because my ego's still there. But just I get to live in God a little bit more than I ever did before, and less in my mind. And I know it's going to keep getting better and better. And I don't know if it sounds bad when I talk about it. Like, sounds like, oh, I don't want this. But I'm going to be honest with you. It is the most enlightening thing that has ever happened to me. The most enlightening, the most knowledge. I thought that knowledge was like a different thing. It was more like in my head, and I know this and I know that. But the knowledge is just like, God's wisdom is so amazing. Like his wisdom is nothing of this world. Everything that I've been taught is mostly wrong. Like it's so weird to think like, man, before I thought like those intellectuals were really smart, but I realized that the intellect is like the lowest state of consciousness. It's like being unconscious. And then the highest state of consciousness is just being and just knowing and just sitting back and not judging, not trying to control, just letting things happen. And then the answers come. And then God just reveals it. And I don't even realize it. I just later on in the day, I'm like, wow, I just dealt with that. So different. Or I'll say something that I'm like, ooh, where'd that come from? I never would say something like that. And it is so cool because that nature of God now is like running through me a little more than it was. And it's really, really cool. It's really cool. The only way to know myself is to know myself. To know the world is to know myself. Once I know myself, God will reveal who I truly am, and he'll take away who I am not and who I thought I was. And all those little things that you don't like about yourself, like all those little things I didn't like about myself are going away. And all the things that used to annoy me at work and people getting upset, I don't get upset with them. If they're upset, I just let them, okay, you're upset. And I just go my separate way. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't bother me. And the other thing was I was always feeling bad for people. And I'm starting to realize like I'm not feeling bad because that's almost playing God. Like I know how they should feel. And that's not for me. And that's new. That's pretty new too. So it's definitely been an amazing, amazing journey. So we had November, December, January, February. Yes, 3 months. 3 months of this transformation, this new way of living. And my life has been amazing. I'm so blessed that I asked the question, why am I angry? I asked God that question. I asked him, why am I upset all the time? Why am I angry? Why am I judging? Why do I think I'm better than other people? What's going on? And I took enough time, I guess, quietly to listen to the answer. And when I realized that I hated my mother, I hated men. I hated that I hated men. I wanted to go to a psychiatrist so that I wouldn't hate men so I could have a relationship with men. And nothing was going to help. Nothing was helping. But just realizing that there's something wrong and I'm confused. I don't know how to change it. And asking God, he started showing me. And then he brought the people in my life that were going to show me. He brought my parents to start showing me. I'm like, oh, I'm starting to see my mom. I'm starting to see my father for who he is. And then I was like, I need to do something and I don't know what to do. And then boom, he pops up, Jesse Lee Peterson. It's a thing called Get a Job, and they have these savage moments. And he was just saying these things, and they were funny. And then I finally checked his show out, and he said it to me. He said it, not to me, but he said it. You're angry at your mother. You resent her for turning you away from your father. And I'm like, yes. And he was talking about somebody else, and it was a conversation. I was like, that's where I'm at. And then he's like, you need to forgive her, but you're playing God by resenting her. And I'm thinking, let me think about if that's what's going on with me. So I'm driving around and I'm like, you know what? I need to do a 4th step, which is, if I have a resentment on somebody, I did the 12 steps. I was in a program, Celebrate Recovery, which was a 12-step Christian-based recovery program. And the 4th step is really going over resentment and forgiving and stuff. And so, but he said I need to go to my mother and to forgive her. And so when I was writing it, I started writing and all these things were coming out. I was crying. I realized, and I've given this story before in my transformation series. If you want to check that out, it's on YouTube. But I realized, I just need to go forgive her, and I had called my sponsor. We were going to make a date to do it. And I just said, that's it. I'm going and I'm going to forgive her. And I'm driving there to go forgive her. And my heart's racing. I'm scared. I'm like, oh, she's going to say this. She's going to get mad. And I was so scared of my mother. The fear was so big. And I never realized fear was anger. Fear was part of anger. It's like fear is like anger's little brother, it's like son or something. And when I went and I forgave her, it was like, that was it. I was the first part of John, right? Go and forgive, repent of your sins, and God will forgive you. I forgave my mom because she didn't know what she was doing. I am not God. I can't hold a grudge against somebody else. That's my sin. And so once I forgave my mother, now once I repented, he's getting rid of all that unrighteousness. 1 John 1:9. It said it right there. I'm like, whoa. I remember I used to read that. Had no clue what it said. That puzzle piece was sitting in there. And I'm like, I don't know where that puzzle piece goes, but it sounds good. I'll put it in my testimony. And I didn't get it. Not fully. But now I get what the sin is because now I see the unrighteousness from it and thinking I'm better than people. And, first 2, I used to call people like stupid. And I've noticed I'm not doing that anymore. So it's like I said, this is a deep rooted unrighteousness, deep rooted just sin. And I don't know the spirit and what spirits they are. I don't know what the names of the spirits, and I don't think it matters what the name of it is. It's a spirit and I don't like it. And it's a spirit that God does not want me to have in me because he wants me to live for him, not for Satan. And that's what I'm going through. Amazing stuff, awesome stuff. And I do believe that I can only be of God and I can only do God's work if I know him. And I can only live in this world and get into politics like I want to get into and really talk about that stuff to try to show women that what our role is. What our role is. Like we have to be the light of the world. That is our job. And to be the light of the world, we do need to speak truth in love. I do believe that. I do see that. I do know that that's there. But I cannot do it until I know myself and I know what I'm doing wrong. Why am I where I'm at? Why am I angry? Why am I fearful? Why? Ask. I can ask God anything and he'll tell me. I can pray for anything and he might give it to me, but sometimes it's not what I want because he's the only one that knows what I want, what I need, and what is in my heart. But he will clear me of all unrighteousness, but I cannot sin. I could not hate. So then I can get up and I can be part of the world and the light of the world. And the light of the world is politics. The light of the world is living in your job, like going to my job and just being that light. And I don't have to tell people what to do. I just have to be the light. And now I'm learning what that means, but I have to sit and know, be still and know, and allow God to get rid of this nasty spirit because I don't like this spirit. It's not very nice, but it's a doozy. We are no good. That's just truth. And only God can change our heart because he knows it. And that's it. So guys, as I said, I do suggest the silent prayer. It is so nice. Jesse Lee Peterson, check out his JLP show Monday through Friday, like I said. I think it's such a cool thing. Know thyself. Sit down. I just suggest, I don't do what you want. It worked for me. Look inside and know yourself. And just sit quietly, maybe for an hour a day. 10 minutes. Sit. Try not to think. When things come up into your head, let them pass and know yourself. And maybe you'll know the questions and the answers. And God will answer any question we have. But we just have to be still and know him. Because the kingdom of God is within. Jesus already died. It's been finished. It's finished. The kingdom is here. He's already come, guys. So that's what I've seen. But be still and know. That's it. That's the podcast for today. I am so grateful to be a Christian. I'm grateful to know myself a little bit more. I can't wait to see what's the next reveal and what I learn next and what I can show the world, because I know that I am here for some purpose. Don't know what it is. Don't know what God has in store for me. Today, I know where I'm at right now, and I'm learning who I am and who I am not. And saying he's always going to be in the world. I can't get rid of him, but I can live for God if I be still and I get to know him, who he is. So guys, thank you again for checking out my YouTube channel, A Life Too Sweet. Also my podcast, A Life Too Sweet Coaching. It's on all major podcast sites. I am so excited to do this. I thank you guys so much for checking this out. Be still and know, oh my God, it's so amazing. So remember, God is good all the time. You guys have a good one, and I will see you in the next podcast. Bye-bye.